part of our. Come on, Travis. Darren, come on, Mark. Y'all acting like y'all ain't get this text message yesterday. Where Wes at? Come on, Wes. Y'all needed me to call your names. That's what it was. Okay. I know for next time. Thank you. Travis, put the chairs up there. So, on this particular Father's Day, we're just going to have 4 of our fathers who are going to sit and share some information, conversation about what it means to be a kingdom father in the world today. And so our kids are dismissed for Kingdom Kids. Darren has the mics. No, just 4. No. Nope. And the buttons at the bottom. Rotate it some more. Right there. So we're going to just start with letting you guys introduce yourselves, and then we'll have some questions that'll pop up on the screen, and then y'all can just have some dialogue around those responses. All right? So we'll start with the black man first.
What that mean? I assume he mean me. My name is Mark. My wife is Stevie, and I have Jordan, Janai, Camden, and Carmen are my 4. We've been here at Church on Purpose just a little over a year, and just excited for what God is doing and what he's going to do.
Nice, Marky Mark. No, my name is Darren Suttles, and my wife is Alicia Suttles, and we have 2 daughters, Zion and Zariah. And this is our this is our 2nd year of being here at Church on Purpose, and then this is my 2nd time on the panel. No, so I'm definitely looking forward to this year's questions, and yeah.
My name is Travis. A lot of people who don't know, I keep my life kind of secluded. I have 3 other kids that live in New York. One on the way, and I have taken Braden underneath my wing as well. Not new to the church, but newer than, most of y'all. But, happy to be here, and thank you.
What's up, bro? Wesley Moore. Tanya Moore is my wife. We have 2 little ones, Krista and Solomon. I have a 24-year-old daughter who lives in Atlanta, Georgia, and I'm a grandfather. So I have a 1-year-old grandson. And, it's all a blessing.
Question number 1, how has your faith influenced your approach to fatherhood and parenting?
It's the way it influences my approach is just, the song said that we have a good father. We have a father that has forgiven and continues to gracefully give. So I use that approach of knowing that, I have a perfect model to follow, and my kids aren't always going to get it right. I'm not always going to get it right, but forgiveness is always, right there, and then just always putting him first in all that I do. My personal time with him, I think, helps everything that I do, that revolves around my kids. So, just keeping a relationship with him and my alignment with God is probably my highest priority into my approach.
Yeah, for me, it would be patience. I feel like every year that's growing and improving, because I think you do have to have a certain amount of patience, and then grace too as well, because like Mark was saying, we're not always going to get it right, and then our kids aren't going to always get it right. But I feel like as long as you have the open dialogue with your kids and communication as well, it's the same thing with God. He knows that we're not going to get it right, but as long as we have that communication with God on a daily basis, I think that's enough as far as just continuing forward and progressing. So patience for me.
I'm a little bit different up here. My church journey, I've always gone to church, but I've never been a part of a church. So this is my first time being a part of a church. So I didn't particularly raise my kids as far as like faith, but now I have a different onlook on how everything should be. I raise my kids. I don't have a safety net. You don't have a safety net. You have to, work hard and get it for yourself. But I've come to realize that I do have a safety net, and I've seen it plenty of times while I've been here. My lady, she knows very, very well. We've been in times where it will be like the last day, and we don't know what's going to happen. You know what I mean? And every single time it's happened. Every single time. It's not been a time since I've been out here that it hasn't. And I want to start to instill that into my kids. My kids are 12, 5, and 4. My 12-year-old, since I've been raising him the longest, he's been going 12 years without that in his mind. And I have to now put that into him, show him there's a completely different side to life that he doesn't even know about. So
I'd say how faith has influenced my approach. I'm gonna have to go with what Darren spoke on patience. It was like kind of those things that are listed as the fruits of the Spirit. Having to grow in that. That's not my. That's not, patience isn't my default at all. So it's kind of like having to grow into that and with my children and understand how much patience they need. That for a lot of these mistakes they make, it's their first time making it. Not they're not 40. And so just trying to have some grace on them, with them, about the mistakes they make. And honesty, like truthfulness, is pretty important to me, because, this is going to come up in maybe some of the other questions, but truthfulness is very important because they're being lied at so many different angles that they need a source of truth in their life. But that's probably the biggest way. And to go along with what Mark spoke on, God being the perfect father, using that example, we talk about that a lot. So
read the question. Oh, yeah. So what are some of the specific challenges that I face as a black Christian father in today's society? And how does my faith guide me in navigating those challenges? I think for this question, one of the biggest challenges that I see today is realizing that there have been generational hindrances on my family in the past that I probably never paid attention to growing up. I think not trying to do what the world wants us to do is probably the biggest challenge. Like, it's so easy to get distracted in other things and get lost in that busyness, and we could be doing good things, but sometimes it's not always what God called us to do. And I think that's the most important thing, is to make sure that that challenge is not pursuing goodness over godliness, and I think that's, me having, I don't want to say absent father, but not necessarily present, not in the home. I think that's the biggest challenge that I want to change is make sure that my presence is known and that it's there. Whether not just physically being in the house, but actually being there, being, in their space, in their world, knowing what they're dealing with, what they have going on, but just making sure that I'm changing that for my children, what I didn't have growing up.
Anybody?
Oh, you can go ahead, Wes.
Okay. Thank you. This one touches close to me. And I do feel a lot of challenges as a black father raising black children, as in the heritage that we have here in the Americas. And specifically, and I'm gonna have to go here, specifically as a black father and as a Christian, and I'm very proud of being both, I am constantly forever saddened by how many false images are out here in regards to who Jesus was, is, who the people of the Bible are, what they look like. They were not pale skinned, they were not white. And we're flooded with these images. And that's on purpose for people who worship that. And that's why it's there. And so the biggest challenge is that in America, Christianity has been hijacked by people's culture, racism, and worship of themselves. That's idolatry. And so it was important to me that as I'm raising my children, that I didn't indoctrinate them with the idolatry of God and everything down is white. That's serious. That causes self-esteem issues in people. That creates superiority issues in other people. And it's very important to me that my children did not get indoctrinated into those lies. And until we step up and create media images that depict more real ideas of what people of the Bible actually look like, then we're kind of subjected to those false images. And so that's been a very big thing for me, that as I say and let my children watch these things, that I let them know the truth. And they know.
Yeah, and I think that's presence is a big part of that too. You being there to kind of set that tone and relay those messages. So
I spent most of my time in New York, so I can only really speak on that part. Raising my kids in New York, everything out there is trendy, so it's kind of cool to be ignorant. Social media, music videos, can't control that they see that, Can't control when they go to school with their friends, tell them what they see around. And trying to get them to understand that, it's cool to hang with God as well, It's cool not to be the cool one, They deal with a lot of outcasting out there, when you're not, doing what you're not supposed to be doing. And my biggest hurdle is, because I've dealt with it, was how to disassociate that. And I do like, as I grew up, I saw they have, music that's more hip, I guess you can say, it's not, the traditional church music you would hear. And, like how we did on Thursday, we went to the gun range, you know what I mean? You can still have fun and still, be a follower of God. So I want to be able to show them, that's one of the biggest things. Show them you can still follow God and still have fun and still live a trendy life,
For me, Man, I feel like this was like a stumper question because it's very serious. Any type of challenges. So the first thing to me that come to mind is more so always representing the kingdom day by day, and I feel like that's a challenge within itself because we always tell Zariah that any time that she's not doing something right, like to remember that your parents are a representation of God. So if I mess up, like she knows that I'm going to come directly to her and tell her, hey, I did this, like I'm sorry, and I approve on it. So like with her seeing those type of actions, she'll start to see like, hey, this is the correct way to go about any type of situation, or if she's in the wrong, and just being righteous with those type of things. And yes, humility. So I think that's a challenge. And then like you were saying, Wes, with our kids are black, and just having those conversations of hey, like this is going to happen in the real world. Once you get out there, you may experience some discrimination or racial profiling or something. So just always knowing that they will have these type of challenges because of the color of your skin. And then the navigation part, now we haven't been always consistent with this, but we're getting back to being consistent with just making sure that you're always having time with God. So that's even with me, like I said, leading by example on a day-to-day basis, and then also praying before they go to sleep. Because even Zion, she is amazing. I mean, both of them are amazing, but even Zion too, just ushering in the Holy Spirit and having that relationship with God. Because already she's like, hey, Dad, come and pray with us. Like already, like I didn't have that experience at 2 and 3. So just her and then ushering that in and just having the relationship and building with God, I feel like the results are speaking for itself. And then having the church community and her around the other kids, just ushering in that Holy Spirit.
So just so y'all know, y'all are able to piggyback and add on if you feel like you want to take an answer and go a little bit deeper. This is a conversation for y'all. So
Good. Okay. Thank you.
the questions are just here
Appreciate
to
it.
facilitate when y'all get stuck.
Yeah, I like that humility portion that you're talking about, because that's where we learn humility from, is our faith, mostly. Like, and so to show them what it looks like by being able to say, I'm sorry, I did that wrong, or you're right, and not be afraid that they're gonna run with that, or that they're not gonna process that. When I grew up, it was like a no, you don't apologize to kids. You don't tell kids you're sorry. That's the environment I grew up under, and so I'm with you on that.
Yeah, I think I could. Yeah, I don't think my mom ever apologized to me. It was it wasn't, she grew up different. I grew up different versus from my 2 kids. So I just always put in my mind too, that I was not going to, like, I wanted to parent differently from my kid. I mean, from how my mom and my grandmother raised me, because it wasn't, it was the best that she did, but I have a different outlook too. And then I'm in church as well, and then build my relationship with God and Jesus Christ. So that looks different, and then they take notice, and then they see the example. So yeah.
I think with us having a community like this right here, this is something I didn't have growing up. I had a lot of homeboys, I had a lot of friends. We hung out, we talk about sports and girls and this and that, but we didn't have this foundation. And I didn't grow up in a church. I went to church when I was at my grandma's house, Southern Baptist church, but I didn't have that at home growing up. So I didn't necessarily get the apologies or I'm sorry, which I was okay with that because I didn't know any different. But I guess the apology was, you hungry? Come get something to eat. You want something to eat? Yeah. And now, like, moms, when they become grandmas, they totally different people, because now it's like a whole different person. Now I'm looking like, I didn't get that when I was jumping off the refrigerator, But yeah, and what you were saying about praying, like I think it all comes back to presence and us being in the house and them seeing us, whether we're doing something with them hands on or not, and just them seeing our posture, how we handle and react to things. I think that makes a huge difference. Cam, like, he won't go to sleep unless somebody come pray with him. You know, so you gonna pray with me unless if he falls asleep in the car, you gotta pray with him before he go into bed. You know, and that's just, I mean, I think that's one of those things that, you know, you put in him now, yeah, and I think it only continues, you know. So.
Oh yeah, just to add on too. I feel like I'm gonna do a lot of adding on because I'm thinking, love for me, because it was shown different. Like my mom and grandma showed love more so. Hey, you know, you got clothes on your back, you know, food, shelter, those type of things. Like we weren't really a big touchy-feely family. So like I'm still kind of like that, but I know like for my kids they want to, you know, affection and embrace too. So I'm still that's still a, you know, progression as well too. But it's a lot of growth for me there.
Yeah, and me personally, I have a very small family. Like I count them on like fingers. Like we need to reproduce, or we gonna go in extinction. Like so, being that though, you know, I'm not used to having them around. You know, other people like this that I did, like what we doing. Like I'm not used to that. You know, this is like I feel like that. You know, the cat peeking out of the bushes, and you know some. You know, I want my kids to, you know, get more, and then, you know, expose some more positivity that way. You know, you expose to your brother and your sister, you know, your dad, your mom, you know, but there's so much more that you're missing from that, you know. So.
And, what ways do you actively incorporate kingdom values and principles into our parenting style? I mean, I think just leading by example is probably the first, you know, at the top of the list. You know, firm believer in kids are going to do what you do before they do what you say. So if you showing them one thing and tell them to do something different, you know, that's a contradiction there. You're not going to ever get the results you're looking for. I know one thing long time ago, my wife and I, we made the pact that if we can't watch it or listen to it with the kids around, then we don't watch it or listen to it.
That's nice.
You know, so yeah. she wasn't happy when Beyonce went flying out the window on the highway one. I had to do what I had to do. But I mean, that was just one of those things. Like we started with our music. It was all like family oriented stuff that we would watch, you know, and if it wasn't we gonna turn to this channel when they sleep, you know, we just try to make that a habit of ours. And I mean, it's one of those things that, you know, it's just, you hear a kid singing like a gospel song on their own, you know, that's one thing, it just kind of do something to you. Because I didn't, you know, it was just R&B, you know, me growing up. But, you know, hearing the kids just sing different songs and they just got that tune in their head, you know, it's like, okay, you know, something's sticking.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about that when we was coming in. Braden was in the back seat singing gospel songs, and I was like, all right, man. I looked back at him a couple times. I don't know if he know or not, but I was like, all right, man, I see you doing your thing. I ain't know those songs. Still don't know. So, you know, that's good that he's doing that, you know.
Yeah, incorporating kingdom values. So, yeah, we've our kids, they're really accustomed to right now, like hearing scriptures at night. Same thing. Don't want to go to sleep without it, kind of thing. Especially Krista, she really wants that. We try to make sure that we stay on top of being prayerful about a lot of things with them. I'm afraid. Okay, well, let's pray, you know. And then as far as like just trying to stay with them and tell them the truth about why we do what we do and don't do what we do, or don't do what we don't do.
That's good.
And the difference between their friends and what's going on in their classes, and you know, trying to have some some balance to it. You don't want to just talk bad about other people's lifestyles and all that, but we do have to let them know there's a difference, and we do have to let them know one's better than the other. And but how to be humble about that too, you know, not be throwing it in your friends' faces, or how to navigate it, or you don't have to always just go at them like that ain't right, but still communicating some truth. But I mean, drawing a line and saying, making a distinction between how we live and how you see others living, and that we're working to go higher as a group, as a family, as a unit.
I think that's good too, because it kind of, like, you acknowledge it and like you're aware of it, you know, like you were saying with your kids, and just knowing like, okay, like I shouldn't, I mean, I don't have to say this, or, you know, go about it in a more respectful like manner, as far as not, like you said, trying to be derogatory or, you know, down belittling somebody or something like that. I know for me too as well, just like the values, we always, I feel like Jesus gave his all at everything that he did. So even with Zariah, when she wants to do something new, you know, we're like, okay, like, cool, you know, like, we'll put in 100%, like she puts in 100%, and we always try to make sure that she knows that, and like, you're gonna complete it from whenever the time is of it expiring or completion. We're big on that, because, you know, we're gonna go, you know, we're gonna make it there almost every practice, majority of the time. Yep, have her back, and just execute it. So,
Yeah, and I think one thing, this is a value here of, you know, just not our church, but the church as well. You know, having them here and wanting to be here. Like, it's one thing to have to come to church. I think our kids want to come to church, and I think by us as a whole, you know, we give them something to want to come back to, and I think that's just gonna grow over the years. A lot of them growing up together. I mean, they gonna have friendship. I didn't have friends in church, you know, so they can. I think they're gonna have. It's gonna be a different image of that generation in the next 5 to 10 years, just from our church, I believe.
As I stated earlier, you know, this is all new to me, so I haven't. I can't say that I've done this part yet, but I don't know if y'all see the phone. I actually took notes down for what I pretty much. This is me brainstorming on what I want to do to progress further with my fatherhood. So I haven't actively incorporated anything yet, but one thing that I did notice since I've been here is more patience. You know, even as adults, our Father is patient with us. We all still mess up, you know what I mean? So the young ones who are learning, and as you stated, making their first mistakes, they need that patience. They need, you know, the guidance without the, I guess, hostility, you know what I mean? Because we're not getting hostility with our maturing. So I think that with me, I can do more of that, you know what I mean? I do know, you know, growing up in a hostile environment, you know, from Brooklyn, I'm quick to, you know, quick snap, you know. And I think that I can do more of his approach with me, because I know me, you know, and I know he done scolded me a couple times, you know, but I still have that, you know, proper room to grow like I need to, and I can do that with my kids.
That's good. Real quick, something that came up when you guys were talking. So I know this is something that's big with both Tanya and I, where, you know, when we correct our children, and we, you know, they get their chastisements, they get their disciplines, and we let them know, you know, God chastises those who he loves, and we get it too, you know. I used to refer to it as when God give me my pow-pow, you know. I'm like, hey, I get it too. And having to teach them and be transparent about things, about times I've messed up and then got God's chastisement, and let them understand, like, sometimes looks like, you tear your car up. Sometimes it looks like you embarrass and shame yourself in front of people, losing your cool and those kind of things. And so what we're doing is I just witnessed Tanya do it lately too. It's like we're trying to set them up for just making their own good decisions right now. Like, we're not going to be here to tell you what to do all the time. There's an age where you're going to start doing what you need to do, but we just want to show you how to follow God. And your first steps to learn to follow God is by following us. That's what one of those, the commandment that's for you, honor your mother and father. Like, we are doing that role for you right now while you're getting your mature mind together. But one day you guys are going to have to make your own decisions. We're starting you now. Make good decisions now. Make them now. But eventually your correction is going to come from God. And I want you to, like, know what that looks like, not repeating it a whole bunch of times, having a bunch of consequences, and not understanding what's happening. Learn quickly and move on. So that's the biggest thing.
That's good.
What you said too, like they look at us, that kind of reminds me of the totem pole.
Okay.
It's beautiful to look at. You look at the totem, oh my God, da da da. But it ain't nothing without that foundation. The major part of the entire totem pole, the part that no one really looks at, is where it all comes from. You know what I mean? And if we could be the totem pole for our kids through faith, then when you get to the top, further generations down the line, you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. Amen.
Finger snaps, okay.
How do we prioritize teaching our children about the importance of faith and spirituality in their lives? I feel like going back to the same answer. For me at least, just living it myself. You keep alignment for your assignments, is what I say. So if my alignment with God is how it should be and where it should be, then anything in front of me He's gonna work through me for those things to happen. And I think by our children seeing how we live, how we handle things, how we, successes and failures, our posture, how we react to different things, I think those things are, teaching them whether we know it or not. Making sure that we are being that good example. And I think, with us having each other, we kind of have that accountability around us. We don't always have the answers, but we all a phone call or a text away. We'll say, hey man, sometimes we don't want to break through that shell and take the mask off, but I think that's something that will really help us in our homes individually, because we sit here talk long enough, man, we probably all dealing with some of the same something that we probably never talk about. But at the same time, if we understand that you got to know who in the room with you, and if we know we have each other, then I think those things can help us handle our own situations too. But I say that because our children are watching us, so leading by example would be, how that teaching for me to my children.
Once again, just starting this off, so can't say
New York.
But
BK.
exactly, all day. I'm looking forward to building this as like the backbone of their development. If you live right, no matter what, you become a positive role model to everything around you. You know what I mean? I call it a cleansed soul. It's my own personal name for it. A cleansed soul is not necessarily one without tarnish, I would say. Like, you can clean something and it can still have bacteria that you don't see. It can still be unsanitary. You understand? So I want them to live a cleansed life. You're trying to have it as polished as you can, even though there may be things in it that's wrong, you know. But as long as you're trying, as long as you're doing your best, putting your best foot forward about it, you don't have anything, I would say, to worry about. You know what I mean? You're all right with life. You're all right with God. You're all right with your peers. You're all right with yourself. You know, so that's what I want to try to instill into the development.
Hey, I like that. I mean, it kind of, like you were saying, point back to lead by example, which I'm really big on that too. And then the growth. I feel like that's where we're at as a family as well. And then just even some of the stories in the Bible, just the growth, even from the, like we talked about the 12 disciples. I'm also from the Bible study, the fishermen's. Like, that was growth for them to become just more than fishermen. So for me, like I said, in my family, we're always growing. I feel like every year. And then I feel like I also get surprised with Zariah sometimes, or even Alicia, because she'll, you know, when kids, when you don't think kids are listening to you, and then they like quote you back something, you like, yeah, that is right. That is the right thing to do, you know? Like, okay, you are listening to me. Not as much as I want you to, but you are taking in the information and receiving it correctly. So.
And kids are a little more spongy than we actually realize. Like you said, you turn around and they just pop up with something that you never, and it don't even have to be like, you know, off of disciplinary actions. Like you said, lead by example, because you'll turn around, Brino, I tease her about it all the time. Braden has this laugh that she'll do is laugh, you know what I mean? And she couldn't understand for the life of her where he got it from, and it's from her, you know what I mean? These are like just little tiny things though, like that they literally pick up. So if you're exerting negativity into the air, you know what I mean? If you're not leading by example, and then you turn around and you see a kid doing things that you don't want them to do, or that's not necessarily right, you wouldn't even understood that it was from me. You understand what I'm saying? That no, but you understand what I'm saying, though, right? It's
we understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's good because we deal with that. Sometimes the first place you notice your bad behaviors when you're seeing your kids doing it, and you're like, oh man, this is me, you know, or you got to be told that's you, you know. So one of the things that I think we constantly are using, I guess, as a tool or just as how we roll for teaching the importance of spirituality in our lives. Like both of us, we weren't raised in the church, right? So we've always had Christians and Christianity around us and in our family, but there was a severing for me of a church tradition. So I didn't, so I just had a wild life, prior to being born again. Same, wife went through her experiences. And so we try to focus, we try to help them understand wisdom. And that wisdom comes from the Lord. Wisdom comes from the Holy Spirit. And that, you want to stay in the right place with the Lord, and not let sin capture you, and get you all off track where you can't hear your wisdom. And then we're constantly letting them know, like, yeah, we lived very unwise lives. Like what? Like, I'm not getting into the details with you, but not understand we suffered. That's another thing. We really let them know, like, people suffer when they're not living a spiritual life. We show them examples of stuff that people are doing, and they're like, not we really shield them from a lot of things, but sometimes we have to point out, like, that's the result of, like, not having God in your life. That's the result of living foolishly and not being guided by wisdom. This is how far people can go off track, and, giving them an understanding with stuff that's happening in other family members and all of that. So that's probably one of the most active things that we do, to let them know how important spirituality is in their life, by highlighting how nasty it can get without it.
But that points back to what you were saying with, always having the proper path to come back to God, even if they do mess up, because we know, we've all been children before, and then go to adolescence and young adulthood, and we know we gonna mess up, but how are you going to, move past that and just having that path, the process of getting back to the Lord, getting back into the Holy Spirit, getting back in right alignment? That wasn't there for me, because like you said, I don't have a church background. I would just like hop into, different churches until I found my spot here at COP. Woo-hoo. No, I think that's super important, because like I say, even if Zariah or Zion mess up, I want them to come to us, because then it's like, hey, mom and dad, like, this happened, this situation. Okay, let's talk about it. Okay, like, what are you going to do different, or how are you going to, be equipped? Because I know, like I say, even right now, we're equipping our kids too. But what's going to happen when you get in that situation? Like, are you going to use your equipment? So
Yeah, one thing, man, I know, just with life and with anybody in the room, prayers don't expire, man. So our prayer life is probably the most important. Yeah, we can pray with our kids, but we still need to have somebody pray for us, and that's probably why we're here now. Because we all say we didn't grow up in the church and all that, but we sitting here, in front of the church. So somebody pray for us at some point, and I think God's gonna meet them and meet us wherever we are. So whatever happens in life, I think our prayers are going to reach them at that time that they need to. So we might not see it happen right now, but those seeds that we can plant, they'll flourish when the time comes.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
oh yeah.
How do we encourage our children to actively engage with their faith community and develop meaningful relationships within the church? Wake them up and bring them here.
That's the first one. No,
getting them in the room, getting them in the place. Just having those engaging events. The sleepovers,
even praise and worship. I see Zariah and Jada over there. Sometimes they'll be, dancing, rejoicing, or singing. So I think too, like with their gifts and using them. Again, pointing back to what we talked about, Bible study with that too.
Yeah, like I said, I think that's I don't think that's really a fair question for our kids. We all proud dads. Everybody gonna, speak highly of the kids, but like I think our kids, they want to come here. When we lived in Atlanta, we had another church we were part of, and like it would be times they were waiting on us to get ready. Like, hey, we going to church tonight? It was probably Saturday night, Sunday service, Wednesday, had a young adult thing, but they always had the kids' church. And it was like just them talking about things. Like I look at them now, like I didn't know this kind of stuff. Like I look at my son, like I didn't know this when I was 6. But just them wanting to be around each other, and what each of us are doing at home is a direct reflection of what the other kids are going to get. So you teaching your kids something at home. Well, my son's playing with them. My kids are playing with them. They talking to each other. They gonna feed off of each other. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I was gonna say, to add on too. So with that being within our homes, now we can engage outside of the homes, which is like you said, with the community or even the kids at their school or other events that we take our kids to, knowing that, hey, like the Holy Spirit is being ushered in when you're having other conversations with other kids. So
me, I would have to get my kids into the church, and the easiest way for me to do that would be, I know we call each other like church family, but I never understood what church family was. It's family, you know what I mean? It's like real family. Like, I see y'all more than I see my family, you know what I mean? So I spend a lot more time with my church family, which in turn makes y'all realistically my family. You know what I mean?
appreciate that.
So if I can, show my kids, it's not your uncle, that's not your cousin, but he's still your family. She's still your family. That'll definitely, warm the waters to being able to step the foot into church, you know what I mean? And that's made it actually easier for me, you know what I mean? Because when I came, I would sit in the back and that was it, but it was actually Jonathan that, came up to me and gave me the big, and I ain't gonna lie, I love your hugs, man. I love his hugs, I do. He give you like this big, warm, welcoming hug, you know what I mean? And I don't even have family that'll hug me like that, you know what I mean? And I feel the embrace from the family, so let the kids feel the family and they'll definitely walk in, They would love to go to grandma's house. They would love to go to cousin's house, you know what I mean? So come on into this house as well, so.
So, yeah, my answer is gonna piggyback. So our kids, they love coming here, and so even us making the decision that we wanted to make Church on Purpose our home, that had a lot to do with them too, because they love this church, they love the congregation, their friends and everything, and so. That's not something we're currently having to really deal with. I'm not saying, like, God forbid. But one thing that has been interesting is there's opportunities for them to walk out their faith here, like disagreements and stuff like that, and how to, like, get them back in, like, forgiveness, things that we can do to help them get over little disputes and stuff like that. And it helps that you're with families that have the same values. It can be a little harder in school when you want your child to, like, make up with another student, and that posture coming back is like, yeah, because you were completely wrong. It's like we have an opportunity here to allow our children to walk out their values with each other here in peace.
One thing I always, I put in, to my son, is being a leader. Like that's just my talk with him. Were you a leader today? Or make sure you be a leader for your classroom. And he'll say little things like, oh, this happened, everybody was laughing. I said, would you like if somebody laughed at you? If that happened to you? Like, I get it, you're 6, it's gonna happen, but just giving him that mindset to start thinking differently. Like, if you separate yourself from what everybody else is doing, then that it's just a lifetime value, lifelong value. And like I said, this is our church, but this is the building. I mean, the church, we take the church where we go, and I think that's what our kids do. And they definitely are going to be influencers amongst their peers, just because of what's happening in these walls here. So, I mean, I think, like I said, this question is probably one that is the easiest to answer, but at the same time, I mean, it's more to just within here. Like, I think our kids are definitely going to be leaders in not just their friends and their peers, but the community and whatever they choose to do in life, And it starts every day, every week. What advice or words of wisdom would you give the other fathers of faith, or to other fathers of faith who are seeking to raise their children in the faith? Got anything on that one? What advice you give to another brother or another father?
Would probably be don't forget the spiritual aspect of your being. Pretty much something like I said earlier. You know, once you started, everything else around you, you'll see falling in place. You know, back in my mid-20s, I was so far from God, it was crazy, and I was dealing with a lot of struggles. You know, and going back to church wasn't even like a thought on my mind. You know, and as I noticed, you know, there was a time where I deleted all of the crazy songs off my phone, and you know, deleted everything crazy off my Instagram and Facebook. You know what I mean? And I noticed as I started getting more mentally focused on what I was supposed to be doing, I started listening back to my church music. I wasn't going to church, but you know, watching the little programs on TV and stuff like that. I was praying, reading the Bible on the way to work on the phone and things like that. So I noticed that everything was falling into place, you know what I mean? So by me now being in a better place for who I am, I can now be a better father for my son. You know what I mean? I always say, I stick strongly by this. You cannot, and it's for mothers and fathers, you know, you can't expect anything from your kid if you don't fix you first. That's why one of the biggest things, if you're on an airplane, the airbags fall, you put yours on first because they can't do. So if you're trying to put theirs on and you pass out trying to put theirs on, both y'all are now screwed, you know what I mean? You can resuscitate your child can't resuscitate you. So until you can get yourself together, your kid is never going to be right. So as a father, get yourself right, and you will see every domino fall after that. So,
Hey, I gotta piggyback on that, man. You just took it from me. It's like all I wanted to say was just work on yourself, and then you gave the words. You know, things start falling into place. That's it. Work on yourself. That goes along with your spouse too. You know, work on yourself.
Yeah, with that, I think the biggest part of working on ourselves, that is true. That's probably the top of the list for some advice you would give someone else. But I think working on ourselves comes with surrounding ourselves with the right people. You know, you can't do it alone. And I think that's one of the biggest problems that we run into as men. We try to do a lot of things alone. We don't really want to, put it out there. We don't want to put it on the table. Sometimes you got to have that group and that community around you that you can have those conversations with, that you can open those doors with. I think that's the biggest part of getting to that step of, working on yourself. I mean, 'cause we try to do it by ourselves, it's going to be a lot harder, a lot longer, and sometimes we just don't have the answers. So I think that's the advice I would give is surround yourself with other people who are either in or going the direction that you want to.
Yeah, I think just to add on to what y'all said was to always keep God at the center of your life and to show your kids love, because they know, they know when it's, genuine, when you're trying, especially if, like I said, even if you haven't came from a loving background, because kids, once you start seeing that, I feel like you start to see your kids acknowledge it, differently. Like I said, you're trying, you're showing me affection, and just like how Jesus showed how he loved us, by dying on the cross, and then just always try to, as much as possible, if you can, to be patient and have grace as well with your kids, because it's a journey. You'll never stop loving your kids, regardless of what mistakes they make. I'm trying to think of what else. Yeah, just keep doing those things. I think everything else will, take everything else will work its way out the way God intended it to be. Because we know kids are a blessing, and He didn't make a mistake, with us when He gave us our children. So.
That's true. Yeah, and the other thing, man, is we might not always have it together. Like, we think we got to have this lined up before we can do that. Sometimes we might have to do it scared, or just I think just one foot in front of the other is the most important thing. Just do it. Make those steps. Whether it's for ourselves, for our family, for our kids, but I think just taking that initial step is what it needs to be. But we're not always gonna have everything where it needs to be. So just kind of just figure it out along the way. You can build and grow as you go.
Yeah, and what you said, putting yourself around people. Oh, yeah, yeah, definitely. Putting yourself around people. Like I said, I'm a small family. I keep a small circle, so I that's not even a thought. That's something I have to change. I have to change that because Ms. Gladys done welcomed me with open arms into her family. Y'all done welcomed me. I met some nice people at my job, so I actually have more of a connection now, and I need to start accepting that mentally, I still have it, and I know that. I'm not used to that, Miss Gladys has been, having like little events and things like that. We went to a barbecue, what was it, last weekend or something like that. And I'm not used to that, and it feels good. It does, it feels very, very good. But now that I have all of this behind me, I now need to, be able to welcome my kids into, things like that. And I'm used to, like you said, doing everything on my own, so.
Did Miss Gladys cook at the barbecue?
No, that was Bree. It was good. It was good. It was good.
So I missed one then.
All right, can we appreciate our fathers? Here at Church on Purpose, we regularly call audibles, and when we have amazing individuals joining us, we like to make sure we use them up while we have them. So we're blessed to have Elisa's dad, Deacon Henry Moore, with us today. So I actually want to ask him to come down and to answer this last question here for our panel, and then to offer any additional encouraging words that he would like to offer for any and all of our fathers.
Yes, I just want to say you guys did exceptionally good with all the questions and exceptionally good answers in response to what they was asking you to do today. There's nothing harder than being a father, a parent. It's the most demanding job that you're going to ever have to deal with. I've been married almost 37 years, and when we first got married, the first thing I told my wife, I said, you don't ever have to worry about me being MIA during our marriage. I said, if I'm out beyond 11, 12 o'clock, I will call you and tell you why. That is huge, starting out a marriage. It helps you to be able to raise your kid in a Christian environment. My daughter just gave me a card this morning that says, they call it walking the talk, and I've watched you do that as long as I can remember. It says, without making a big deal of it, you've shown how a man can make a difference in the lives of people around them. And that made the biggest difference to me. It is huge. You could say stuff to your kids and say, don't do as I do, do as I say. Well, that's gonna work for when they're from maybe 1 year old up until about 12 or 13. When they start to get in the adolescent area, they're gonna say, look, I've listened to you tell me what I should and shouldn't be doing, but you aren't doing it yourself, so why would I pay attention to what you're telling me to do? So therefore, we have to live the way God has intended us to live our lives and show our kids that we could do what the Word is telling us to do as men. And you got to make sure you're on the same page with your wife. There's nothing like having two Christian in a Christian environment to help your kids maneuver through the everyday routine. So not, to spend a lot of time talking about it, but it is huge. And you guys are doing, you're talking about doing the right thing, and there's nothing like living the everyday walk to try to make sure that you're going to prepare your kids for this rough and crazy world. And that's pretty much it for me.
Do any of our panelists have questions for Deacon Moore? I know I'm throwing these curveballs at you. I ain't had no time to think about it. It's just kind of on the spot, but I want you to be able to access the wisdom while you got it in front of you.
Yeah, y'all go ahead. What was the, I guess, the most challenging part when you were raising your kids? Like, at what, like, age was it? Like the toddler or preteen, adolescent? Like, where you find like, okay, like, man, how do I need to answer this question, or like, how do I need to maneuver?
Well, with your kids, for the most part, when they start to get to be teenagers, that's when they're going to start questioning what you're doing and why you're doing it. My youngest daughter, Lisa, has been a model daughter. She's done everything that we wanted her to do as a daughter, and without a lot of question. Now, the oldest daughter was a little bit different. She wanted answers, and if we didn't give them to her the way she wanted them, she would let us know, and she would rebel. And it taken her a while to come around, and over the years, the last 5 to 7 years, we've noticed a drastic change in our oldest daughter. She's a lot more involved in what's going on, and even at 35 years old, she still want to hang out back again with mom and dad. So the teenage years is what you're going to have to watch out for with your kids.
Yeah, when they teenagers, they wake up one day and they know everything.
100%.
It just
I feel like my
like
kid already
Tuesday
do
they
that
didn't know
already.
nothing, but Wednesday they knew it all.
So be careful. Always be careful what you say, how you say it, what you're doing with your kids, because they pay attention. I do a lot of stuff in the community, and I tell parents all the time, I said, your kids don't learn stuff from around the community. It usually comes from the household. So if you're doing bad things, your kid's gonna mimic what they see you do more so than what they see the neighbors doing. It's because they wanna emulate what you're doing as a parent. So be careful what you do, what you say, and how you're doing it and how you're saying it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know the oldest daughter, but from the little I do know about Elisa, I mean, it seems like you did a great job.
We try to, and and she's shown us that she really appreciates the way we've raised her. And she just told me, she's like, I want to raise my family like you guys have raised myself and my sister.
So that 37 years, along with the kids and the growing, and now they're adults, how this may be off of parenting, but I mean, those 37, how did those develop over time,
Well, the 37 years,
I guess.
like I said, as a parent, when you're trying to do the right thing, sometimes you got to weed out folks out of your life. And that's what I've done over the years. Folks that I knew was going to be a negative influence, I had to tell them, this is not a good fit for me. I actually have a friend that is doing very well these days out in California. He has this company called Hood Life Touring, but he came here some years ago, and he asked me, he said, you're going to invite me over to your house to, visit with your wife and your kids? I said, no. And he like, what? I said, your lifestyle is not a good fit for me bringing you around my family. I said, me and you could hang out, but involving my family is not a good idea. And he got upset about it, but he thought about it, and recently, at first I was really upset with you. And he said, but now I understand why you did what you did. And, he said, I appreciate you at least talking to me about it. But you got to weed out some of the bad seeds if you're going to make your marriage last, for a lifetime, because that's what you get into it for, a lifetime commitment. And unfortunately, especially in the black community, we're doing a poor job of maintaining marriages. That's why a lot of our kids are so messed up these days because there are not two good parents in the household.
And it just got real.
What's that?
I said it just got real. No, that's good.
We got time for one more question. I mean, you don't have to make nothing up. You know what he looked like now, so if you need to ask him later, you know, you can do that. Just if anybody had one.
Are you coming to the church more, or you?
I'm actually a member of Mount Nebo Missionary Baptist Church over on 50th and just off of 4th Street. The only reason I came today, it was Lisa asked me to come and celebrate with you guys.
We appreciate that.
Yeah, definitely appreciate it. No, I got a side note. I just want to shout out to the amazing, phenomenal women of Church on Purpose for serving today and also helping with media setup. That was a big surprise. I was like, what? Like, I don't have to come in early today? So I don't know whose idea that was, but that was a blessing for me personally. So I'm going to enjoy it for today.
Had to been a good job, 'cause we couldn't even break it down that week you was gone. They
Yeah.
said,
When I didn't, yeah, remember me talking to you about it. We went back there and I saw everything you got to do. I was like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
thank you. Definitely.
got to get it done.
All right, let's give it up for our panel one more time. Thank you, brothers. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, so at this time, we're going to go ahead and gather in our groups for a period of reflection so that we can answer the two questions you'll see on your screen. What stuck out to me the most from this conversation today, and what am I going to do differently this week based on what I heard? So we'll go ahead and bring the lights up and gather in our groups of 3 to 4 and answer those questions, and then we'll come back in about 10 minutes so that we can hear from our kids and what they learned in their lessons today, and then close out our time of worship. So at this time, you can go ahead and gather in your groups. For those of you that have joined us online this morning, we know that you've been blessed by our time together, and we hope that you have a wonderful week, and we look forward to seeing you again here at Church on Purpose. What a blessing it is to hear the word of the Lord. If you're reflecting, please continue reflecting. If you're done reflecting, just give me a thumbs up. Let me know you're ready to roll. Thank you. Got about 4 more minutes. Got about 2 more minutes.